you know shit about boxing.
Hi there, I'm Danny Flexon and welcome to episode 17 of You Don't Know Shit About Boxing. And I'm joined, as always, by my obstreperous co-host. I've actually done some research, Miss Georgia Banks.
It's another word I'm going to have to Google.
I was going to say, you don't know whether to say thanks or not, do you? Is
Probably
it a compliment?
not knowing you, so...
It was in one of my son's books the other day and I had to actually look it up because I didn't know what it meant because he asked me and I couldn't tell him. Failed as a father.
I'm dyslexic, so I would probably just fail reading it.
You're about to
from a
spell
book.
it, yeah, if we ever needed to.
Just sounding it out each, like, sound by sound.
So once we finish Janet and John, we're going to be talking about YouTube crossover boxing, among other things, this week. But first of all, we have to welcome a very special guest. He is originally from Glasgow, Scotland, but now managing fighters based out of West London. He is one half of SJAM Boxing. That's actually not true because there's a whole stable of fighters. It doesn't make sense. However, he's one half of the heads of SJAM Boxing alongside Adam Morley. It is Shane Watson.
See, I didn't know that you were doing that.
I'm not sure I knew what I was doing while I was doing it.
You were looking at me like,
Welcome.
What's going on?
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
I took a while to get on the show.
It's all right. Didn't you moan it was too low earlier? Now you've
Too low, yeah,
up.
definitely a bit too high in it. But
It's all right, they shrink through
we're
the
stable
night,
now.
it's
We're
fine.
stable. Balance is there. We're ready to go.
That's what we want. That's what we want. Balance. All about balance. How you doing?
All good, mate. How are you?
I'm very good. I was at the Williamson Kelly press conference earlier.
Always a champion second. That's first, isn't it? Oh yeah, champion.
I got
first.
it wrong, basically.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to cover it up, but you've drawn attention to it. It's fine. It's a good start. How's things at SJAM?
Yeah, good. Busy. Got fights pretty much every weekend, all in different locations as well, so that's nice. Yeah, this is as busy as it could be. I mean, a lot of our fighters are still quite young coming through, so obviously it means that they fight a lot more often. And obviously we're just coming off a massive win for our company with Joe Joyce. Everything, all systems go, everything's going really well. Still, I think we're now 67-0 with 2 draws with our current fighters. I think 57 KOs.
Is that because anyone loses, they have to leave immediately?
No. Now we had one defeat some years back with Cody, but Cody, I don't know if he's still boxing at the moment, but he wanted a big time out from the sport. If he ever needs help from us, we'd always be there. But yeah, so that's the current record as it stands. Make Mayweather look poor with that current record, but yeah, no, it's all going good. All going good.
Good stuff. How long have you been at SJAM now?
It was kind of a weird one. So I started there like on a kind of pay-as-you-pay deal, like that football deal when I was a bit younger, because at the time they didn't really need me like full time because I only had like obviously a much smaller stable and obviously Sam Jones was there at the time. About 4 years ago, and then I started full time I think about 2 years ago, and now I do what I do now since Christmas Eve last year.
Did you start in media?
Started media, yeah. So I did. I had a YouTube channel. I think I've just gone a bit lower in the share.
As soon as you mentioned YouTube, it doesn't bode well.
So I started a YouTube channel with my best friend I met at uni called Pav, and we used to just interview fighters basically. I just wanted it to help with my journalism degree, and it did, and it was just cool to interview some of your heroes, I guess. And so we did that for some years, and then packed it in because you realise it's a tough old game, and like it's very hard to make money in it, and especially when you're just 2 university students, no real backing and whatnot. So we just did it to get like the contact base and that kind of thing up, and like I said, experience for journalism and interviewing and whatnot. And then I had old Sam Jones and more in the blower. It all kind of changed. So.
And talking of that, Sam Jones obviously moved on to Pro Bellum not too long ago, but since then you've kind of been thrust into the spotlight quite a lot. You're getting interviewed a lot more, you're around the fighters on fight weeks, we see you a lot more, you're more visible. How have you coped with that?
Yeah, I've coped with it well because luckily I've had Adam around me a lot of the time as well. He's like a good mentor, so I could learn from learn a lot from him. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, so he's quite a good person to learn from. But yeah, no, it's been good. It's obviously it's a much harder task, much harder work, and there's a lot more risk in the sense of like picking your guys' opponents and like, well, them trusting you to look after their career almost. So especially what I do it more full time as well, because obviously Adam's got some other responsibilities in his life as well, even though he does give SJAM a lot of his time. But yeah, no, it's a lot of pressure and whatnot, but if you love something so much, you don't really feel the pressure because you live it every second of it of the day. So that's just the way I see it, really.
Who's your favourite?
Ooh, favourite.
They won't all watch, I mean.
Yeah, well, yeah. Tags a minute already. I can't say I have a favourite. I'm not even just sitting on the fence here. I'm just actually genuinely being honest. I actually don't have one. Yeah, no, I actually am quite lucky to have a very solid relationship. I mean, that is my job, to have a solid relationship. So if I had to pick one. But no, I can't. No, I'm very close to them all. They're all good people. I don't fall out of any of them. So
If you got a free holiday and you could only take one SJM fighter with you, who would it be?
ooh, that's a good one.
Thanks.
Do you have any idea who you think it could be? Why don't you guess who you think it would be, and you guess first, and then I'll say who it is.
All right.
I'd have said Joe Joyce because you don't shut up about him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That is my job, right? Who you going for?
Maybe Fisher.
Yeah. Do you know what? I would go Joe Joyce, right? Reason being, yeah, like we've had some untold mental times out, right? So that's the reason being. Johnny doesn't drink, but he still is fun on a night out. In fairness to him, but he's a lot more active. So he's fighting about, and he can fight up to 7 times a year. So I feel like when I'm going out with him, I could potentially be putting him off track. So yeah, it'd have to be Joe Joyce. Not just for that reason, but yeah, Joe's good fun. But now Johnny is as well. To be fair, it's a tough one. But I think how many I've been out with John Edges before. He's quite good fun on that actually. Yeah, I'll go with Joe Joyce though, definitely. And because he gets noticed on nights out, it's a bit more fun as well. Right.
Who's got the best banter?
Ooh, do you know what? My banter is much more similar to Johnny Fisher's because he loves The Office. I love The Office. UK, by the way, putting out there. Very important.
It's the only one, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I mean, could have said that. But yeah, no. So I'd have to say, yeah, Johnny Fisher because we both love The Office. But they're all funny in their own ways. Like Junaid's really funny as well. He's a bit eccentric, but yeah, no. But yeah, I'll go Johnny Fisher.
Who would you most want by your side in a ruck?
Florian Marku. It's the easiest question ever. Right, like he's the one guy that I always feel like I'm on edge around because I just feel like he can go at any time. But yeah, no, definitely Florian Marku. Like if you've got him in your side against anyone, you're definitely in a safe place. So.
Good stuff. Now, this week's topic is YouTuber boxing or crossover boxing, which I think has been rechristened now by, is it Wasserman, called as crossover boxing? Apologies to whoever it was they ripped off if that's the case, but I'm pretty sure they were first. Yeah, there's a big fight coming up this weekend, or big certainly in that sphere, between Jake Paul and Anderson Silva. But it just seems to be a year where this type of boxing has proliferated and just gone mad and got a much bigger share of the spotlight than it's had in the past. Just as a fan, first of all, Shane, what do you make of it?
Do you know what? Like, I've got so many opinions on it, and I've definitely made my opinion on it up recently. Like, people say it's dangerous to do it and stuff like that. I was like, if you look at what goes on in pro boxing, we talk about dangerous. Like, I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. Like, a fight recently that got called off. Like, that's dangerous. Like, and then you see these mismatches. You get in, like, Mexico where random people get given a license, and then they fight, like, experienced amateurs and get knocked out and around and stuff. That's dangerous. 2 low-level guys fighting each other is not dangerous because it's just like going to the white collar, but just getting paid a lot more money for it and on a much bigger platform. So if there's a crowd and there's an audience for it, how can you really be against it? I guess there is. They're fighting like-minded people. I mean, in Jake Paul's position, I mean, I guess he's fighting people that have got a bit more ability than compared to some of the other ones, like the DAZN Misfit show, for example, which I guess kind of has to be given a bit of credit for because I guess he doesn't have to. He makes a lot of money wherever he fights. So yeah, I've definitely got an eye for it. Like when they were going to have Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, that's interesting. Like, I was actually excited for that. And that was the first time I'd actually been excited for one because I thought, this is a bit interesting to see what's going to happen here. But if there's a crowd for it and there are people paying for it, then fair play to them. You got to find ways to earn money. And boxing's always seemed to be the sport that people come into to earn money. It's happened with UFC fighters, YouTubers, TikTokers, and whatnot. So I can't really be against it because nothing bad's happened because of it that I know about or that I can remember. So, but a lot of bad stuff's happened in boxing. So I'd be very hypocritical to mug it off, I think, really.
What do you think, Georgia?
I see both sides of the argument. For me, the whole influencer boxing makes me feel quite old because I have no idea who any of these people are, and I'm like, okay, so what do you do?
You'll do the same thing.
I can see the side of it where professional athletes are getting annoyed because they're making a lot more money than say they've worked their whole life for. I'm not really too arsed about it. Have I watched it? No. Will I watch it? Probably not.
thought you could see both sides of it. Where's the other side?
Well, the side where they're making money, I'm like, yeah, do your thing. But from a sporting point of view, I'm not really bothered. I don't go and sit and watch White Collar at the weekend, so I wouldn't.
That's why I think like boxing can learn from like what these guys are doing. They went and sold themselves and paid a lot of money and a lot of their time into promoting themselves and making them who they are. And some boxers, all they do is sleep, eat, train, repeat. Maybe that's all they have time for, in fairness. But
I think a lot of them do feel that that's where their job begins and ends as well.
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
It is hard to do anything else. Like, and like these other guys have already had money, so now they can like get kind of other people to do that for them. Like boxers, a lot of the top like 0.3% financially couldn't afford to hire people like that to do that kind of job for them. But I would rather them TikTokers, YouTubers earn that money than people at the top earning even more money because they don't deserve it because they're not pro fighters. You know, like the pros and cons of it is like when people say about football, like that player don't deserve 200 grand a week. I say, well, would you rather him earn it for actually being a talented footballer or the guys that are already billionaires at the top? Well, it's going to go one way or the other, isn't it? So I'd rather the footballer have it, and he can change his and other people's lives around him, can't he? So.
Yeah, I sent Danny a tweet from Elle Brooks' Twitter, which was basically like, she loves influence in boxing because you can basically have a problem with somebody and beat them up in the ring and it'd be fine. And that's like, I was kind of a bit like, oh, good point. Yeah, I see it.
Her last opponent, and I only know about this, right? Not trying to act like I'm a massive YouTube boxing fan because she trains in the same gym as Johnny Fisher and John Edges and Tommy Fletcher. Like her last opponent, she didn't even know she was fighting until fight week. I don't think she had a problem with her, but because the other one pulled out. I can't remember, was it Astrid Wet or something? Yeah. She pulled out, so they chucked in that Love Island girl. Not that I watched it too much. I can't remember what her name is, but at last minute, I don't doubt shade her. But
on that, what really grinds my gears is the people who, no names in particular, train these influencers, or they go around a few trainers, and I'm watching them, and apparently they've been training for like 6-7 months, still can't jab. Still, like they can't stand there.
But
you know, like you're risking your life going into this ring. First of all, you're then paying money to various different people to train you how to fight, and they're not doing that. They're just happily taking your money. I don't like that part of it. I think if you're going to fight, Elle Brooks, I think, has done a very good job of cementing her way in with Mark Tibbs and getting trained by somebody actually proper and credited.
Yeah, I mean, I think fair play to her, and like I said, I don't think she blows her own trumpet with it. She knows her level, and that's probably what's good, having like a female world champion in her gym. Maybe that makes her feel like she ain't in her level because she sees someone who obviously is. So, but listen, I just think fair play to them, man. They go out there, earn their money, do what they do. Obviously, it still is a risk, still getting it in the face and whatnot. So fair play to them, but it won't. I don't think it'll be something that lasts forever. I think eventually, like when you get that kind of Jake Paul, KSI fight, or like Jake Paul and another big name, and they eventually lose, I think eventually it will start to dilute. It ain't going to go on forever. Like, I think it's just really big at the minute.
You talked about the boxers who don't really see the value in putting themselves out there, or don't want to put themselves out there because they're focused purely on the sporting side. As a manager, how frustrating is that for you, that you've got incredibly talented fighters in some cases who don't want to cross over or who don't put themselves out there in the media or whatever it might be?
No, it's so frustrating because I say how important it is. I mean, like, if you can be the best fighter in the world, but if no one knows you, why does it even matter? Like, that's the only way you're going to earn money, and that's the only way you're ever going to get opportunity. Because if you're very good and no one knows you, no one's going to want to fight you. But if you're very good and people know you, people are going to want to fight you. Like, Canelo's very good, people know him, so everyone wants to fight him because they're going to earn a lot of money. But if you're very good and no one knows you, like, what's the actual point? It's just, you're in it sport, number one, to earn loads of money, number two, to achieve things, and you're not going to do either if no one cares about who you are. So doing interviews with all media outlets are important. Talking a bit of trash from time to time is very important, even if it's not the kind of guy that you are, just do it anyway. And interacting on social media is really important, but it's a difficult one because I feel like younger people coming through now understand it. Maybe like the older ones in the sport, maybe not so much, but I feel like you can't not understand it now because like, literally the whole world is social media. I mean, a lot of boxing matches are on social media now, so I think a lot of people are starting to get the grips of how important it is.
How do you feel about professional boxers going into like the influencing boxing world? So like your Idris Virgos, Tommy Fury, that are then just calling out kind of other influencers and not going down a traditional boxing route.
I mean, I'm not a massive fan of that, and I have to be honest because I feel like knowing what these boxers go through and knowing their mindsets, like they're just savage, not human beings. Like they're almost like monsters, like what they do, like, and the fact they choose to do this for a living. And I feel like if you are serious about yourself, like one of those guys, Tommy Fury, said he wanted to be a world champion. you're not really going the route to become a world champion if you're fighting these guys, and you're not really going to get taken seriously on the boxing circuit. Yeah, you're going to earn loads of money, fair play to him. Like I said, that was one of the most important things. But then you can't say you want to be a world champion now if you're putting out fights for Jake Paul, and then you're winning on points against a guy called Anthony Taylor, who was an MMA fighter and a very small one, but. I don't mean small profile. I mean actual height. He's actually a small man, but
That tickled you, that one, didn't it?
no, I was like, I was thinking that right. But no, and then Idris Virgo. Do you know what? Actually, Idris Virgo, right? I think he's just trying to look for an opportunity. I mean, I don't think he's got a promotion to do at the moment. I think his Hennessy deal run out, and he was boxing pro fighters on Hennessy shows, maybe not a very high level ones, but he was. I think he just kind of probably wants an opportunity. He probably wants to find a way to earn some money. So I think it's a bit different. Like Tommy Fury's kind of got the world at his feet no matter what he does. I don't think Idris is in the same position, but if you've got the world at your feet and you can actually fight normal pro fighters hard on cards like Tommy can, that's the way it should be going. Even more so the family that he's from, like just calling out random YouTubers. I don't know is he fighting a real boxer on this Deji Mayweather card? I'm
not sure.
I'm not sure.
He's fine. I don't know, but like yeah, I feel like for him it's a bit weirder. Like especially when you said you're going to be a world champion. X, Y, and Z, but listen, fair play to him. He's earning loads of money. How can I complain? Fair play to him.
Now, Georgia said she feels old because she can't name a lot of the influencer boxers. I probably can name even fewer. But hopefully, Lean Josh Green will correct that for us because he's going to list his top 5 influencer or YouTube boxers over in the green room.
Thank you very much, guys, and welcome back to the green room. I'm here today to run through the top 5 crossover boxers in the world today. Now, we're not going to look at the likes of the former MMA stars, so Conor McGregor we've seen in the ring, Anderson Silva coming up as well, and also discounting people like Thor who have participated in sort of combat sports, but the same type of arenas is mainly going to be focusing on the YouTube and TikTok stars that we've seen on some of the recent cards. So counting down from number 5 to number 1. At number 5 we've got Alex Wasabi, Filipino born, and has had some really good fights over the last few years. The rivalry really started around 4 or 5 years ago when he called out KSI for a fight. Now he had to wait 5 years until he eventually got that fight, but I think he's been a big part of the rise of crossover boxing without really being at the forefront. Coming in at number 4, it's Anderson Gibb, another man that's got a few big wins on his record, 4 in fact, with the latest being a win over Austin McBroom. He fought Deji very early on in all of this, to be honest, and very much been chasing the KSI fight. He has fought Jake Paul, his only loss on the record. That was Jake's first professional bout, although Jake did have the fight with Deji before that. Another fighter that you feel like a few more bouts under his belt could be a danger to some of the top fighters. Coming in at number 3, we've got somebody who performed very well a couple of weeks ago, and that's Slim, getting a win over Ryan Taylor in very dramatic fashion, really. It'll probably go down as one of the best fights and one of the most dramatic fights we've seen in crossover boxing so far. He really put people on attention, people now suggesting that he might be next in line to face KSI. And with what we saw over the last weekend, a couple of weekends ago in Sheffield, that may very well be the case. Now, coming in at number 2, there will be plenty of debate over this. It's the man that I've mentioned a few times already, and that will be KSI, very much at the forefront of all of this, not just in the ring, but from the promoting side of the sport as well, teaming up with Calla Sowland and Misfits Boxing. That's some big fights, those 2 fights with Logan Paul, still chasing the Jake Paul fight. But I think most people would suggest after the 2 wins in one night some months ago that he is one of the most naturally gifted crossover fighters that we've seen, especially on the UK shores. If he gets that fight against Jake Paul, I think we will decide once and for all who is that number 1. But for now, I've got number 1 as Jake Paul. Obviously not just for people from the YouTube and TikTok world, but fought some former MMA stars as well. The likes of Ben Askren got a brutal knockout in that one, and 2 fights with Tyron Woodley as well. He'll be facing Anderson Silva in just a few days' time. If he was to get that win, I think you would have to say that maybe there's some bigger fights out there. Obviously, Tommy Fury's been touted as a fight. He would probably go into that fight as a second favourite, but he certainly wouldn't be ruled out. So for me, Jake Paul probably just sitting there as number 1 crossover boxer at the moment. Back to Danny and Georgia in the studio.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Obviously, no big surprise. I guess even for me, he doesn't know loads about this world that KSI and Jake Paul occupy the top 2 spots on the list. Let's start with KSI. He's obviously the figurehead behind Wasserman's crossover boxing. Beat 2 guys in one night, which I guess is tough, depending on who they are and stuff. Not 2 at the same time, though. I mean, come on, KSI. But yeah.
They should do that next.
Maybe they will. Just giving them the idea. I want 10%. No, I mean, yeah, big name for himself. He's obviously had a number 1 single as well since. I mean, I haven't done that. I don't know about you, Shane.
I mean, I feel like you must know a lot about him. That's a lot of fact you just really put out like that. Do you know what I mean?
I'm a top 40 addict. What can I say? I know about the charts. He said his end goal is to fight Jake Paul, and then he'll kind of move away and start doing other things. You said earlier you think it might kind of diminish this arena once someone like KSI Jake Paul loses. How much do you think they are influencers after all, how much do you think they can bring through people into YouTuber boxing and make it bigger, or even kids who follow them into traditional boxing?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the other shows that they've not been involved with at all, I mean, like KSI is still involved in the Misfits thing. A lot of them have really failed. That one in America,
Sorry.
a guy...
All of them have really failed.
It's the truth. It's tanked. But you see that one in America, a guy called, and I only know this from social media, Austin McBroom. Yeah. What did they sell? 900 tickets or something, yeah? And they spent like millions on the show. So that's another one that went down the duster. So that's just kind of happens all the time. So unless they've got those 2 massive personalities, and like KSI is arguably the most famous person from the UK at the minute. Like, he's massive all around the world as well. But I feel like once you lose those 2 behind it, and listen, KSI's got so much going on in his life. He's got a massive drinks company. He's an artist. How much time do you really think he's gonna be able to put into boxing?
And his second YouTube channel, like, didn't it make him like £1 million or something? And that, I don't know what it is.
What, £1 million in life, or like week? Or...
No, like I don't know. You're asking too many questions. I don't know. Ask Danny. But yeah, that's just like his side YouTube channel.
I didn't even know he had more than one. I
mean, you must have. If you knew he was number
we've
1.
got about 50, all right? I say, wait, I have nothing to do with any of them except SecondsOut. But starting with you, Georgia, then, Jake Paul. Do you see potential in him to go somewhere in traditional boxing, so beyond the YouTube kind of pigeonhole?
Do you know what? When he first started, I was fully against it. And I was just like, this is bullshit. Like, I don't want to watch this. I think it's stupid. I think you're taking the piss out of professional boxers. It's been a couple of years now, and he seems to have improved. He's training hard, as you would be if he was a professional. I haven't watched enough of him to know if he'd be any good if he turned over, but props to him. Like, not many people turn around and be like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to train like a professional. I'm going to have all these fights. And
he's done a lot for women's boxing as well. I think most people agree, positioning them high up on his cards. Definitely. What do you think, Shane? Has he got the skills to pay the bills?
To a certain level. I mean, the level, whatever that is, he's done so far. I mean, Ben Askren, again, he was just a wrestler, so he got nothing to do with boxing whatsoever. Tyron Woodley, I believe, was a striker in UFCs. I mean, at least that's some kind of like boxing involved, and I guess so. It's a good win. But didn't he win on a split the first time or something? So I guess that means arguably he didn't win the first one. But listen, if a guy's training really hard and he's going to take boxing seriously, who am I to discredit him? But that's the question, isn't it? Is he actually boxing seriously? Okay, fine. Anderson Silva, next, who beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So I guess that's some kind of pedigree.
And didn't look awful in that fight.
He didn't. He's southpaw, but he is 47, I believe, right?
He is.
So that, on the flip side, he wouldn't even be allowed to fight in the UK. So when you look at it that way, but then again, out of all of them, he's the one who is actually fighting someone who's got a bit about him. Because even though KSI fought 2 guys in one night, one of them, the one that was the pro somehow, like, I don't know, honestly, like, I don't even want to laugh because it is like, because he is an ex-professional. Who am I against it? But that was embarrassing. I know for a fact I could have done better than that, like 100 million%. Yeah. And the other geezer.
You're pitching to fight KSI. Are you using this platform to pitch as KSI?
I don't know, watches all the time.
And then you got the other guy called Swarms, I think it was, right? He he did like a Tasmanian devil kind of spinning a ring and that, didn't he? Like mental. It's completely weird. But then again, he'd only been training for 2 weeks, so I can't really give him much credit for that. But I think Jake Paul, you just got to kind of see where the journey goes. Like the whole Tommy Fury situation, we're not really sure whose fault that was. But listen,
it wasn't Jake Paul's. I mean,
it wasn't.
Tommy wasn't allowed into the country. We don't know whose fault that was.
It's a bit questionable, that is, though. It's a bit questionable because it's very weird for the border control from their country to be randomly went to Heathrow Airport. Like, it's usually when you get there that happens. Like,
yeah, so we're not saying it's Tommy's fault necessarily, but it's definitely not Jake Paul's fault. He seemed willing on the surface to fight a real boxer.
Yeah, of course. And then, the only reason why I was then thinking about the Hassan Ratman situation. That was a little bit weird. But, yeah, like I said, like he's still going in there fighting Anderson Silva and whatnot. So fair play to him. You have to give credit where it's due. Like you said, he's putting boxers on his undercard as well. So that's actually good for the sport. Like Manu Serrano has ended up making a lot of money and had a lot of opportunities. And even though his last show got pulled, I believe he paid 50% of the purses still. But that's credit where it's due again, because he'd have lost a lot of money in that. So he would have already lost money on booking the arena.
Imagine how other promoters would have reacted to that. Oh, don't set that precedent. What's the matter with you?
But yeah, no, fair play to him. Like, you just got to see where the journey goes. I feel like we're still at too early of a stage, as in fighting against actual pros, to really know where it's going to go. But you can say for sure that KSI is not going to stick as a boxing promoter, whatever he is at the minute, for the long future. Because you don't earn a lot of money in it, to start with, especially the kind of money that he's earning from other business ventures. So, and then when he's not, I think it's all just kind of screwed. I'm not sure how that DAZN show recently did, but like I said, the other ones, a lot of them have done shockingly bad. So it just obviously shows that it's got to be one of those two have some kind of involvement to have the success needed for it to carry on in the future.
Is there a danger that kids who start watching Jake Paul when they're quite young start to think that boxing's an easy sport, that it's something that's accessible to pretty much anyone? I'm not saying it shouldn't be accessible, but you have to work very, very hard, and Jake Paul does.
Yeah.
But do they look at these YouTubers and think, oh, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could have a YouTube channel, then I could do a bit of boxing, then I could do a bit of football. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think so, really, because I think that they will understand that they're still fighting the YouTubers. Like, because then if they want to look at boxing, they would look at, like, you would just immediately see unbelievable talent from over the years, and then you'd realise that they're not the same. Like, I don't think any of them are thinking, oh, Jake Paul can actually beat someone like Tyson Fury. Then that would be a problem, because then there's some serious dangers to this sport. But I don't think anyone really actually thinks that. Like, Jake Paul obviously doesn't even think that, so it'd be weird for them to even think that. So, and I feel like Jake Paul's always been quite respectful of Tyson Fury in it, actually. Maybe not his brother, but like him, he always has been. And I don't think any of them have actually said they would beat Tyson Fury in a fight or something. So I don't know why anyone would, from that world, would think that when Jake Paul's talking about knocking out YouTubers or Tommy Fury, and neither of anywhere near world level. So
now, if Jake Paul and KSI do eventually clash, it will undoubtedly be the biggest commercial success of any fight in that realm. And they seem to be kind of edging in that direction, but we've put together a video showing their comments about each other over the last few years.
I said I want it to be 2023. Chances are it'll probably be end of 2023, like near the end of the year. But yeah, I just know the negotiations back and forth, it's gonna be long, man. Like, especially his team, they're full of shit, man.
100%. Why would I not? You know. But again, I've said it since 2020. He's not gonna fight me. He's not going to.
No, not at all. This doesn't help at all. It's like they're like two different people. Completely two different people, two different teams, two different managements. Like, working with Logan is a dream compared to working with Jake.
Has that fight gotten any closer? Are we talking kind of in paperwork, negotiations? Where are we at?
Our teams are talking, yeah. So yeah, but we'll see.
If he genuinely put his name on the dotted line for something like that, you'd be in for it. Winner take all.
Of course. I'd start laughing. I'd do the whole like crazy laugh because, bro, like, yeah, he knows that I'm terrifying to be against. And the thing with him as well is I beat his brother. I beat his brother with heart and dogginess alone. That's it. I had that dogginess to just win. I had the heart just to win. That was it. There was no technique. Now, to have both of those things and technique, that's a terrifying KSI, bro. That's a very scary KSI.
I don't think he's gonna do it. I said it, bro. I literally like manifested this whole entire fight. Like, watch my video before. I'm like, as soon as KSI sees my performance, he's not gonna fight me. I'm calling it now.
How do I make that fight?
Yeah, how do you make the fight happen is what I mean.
Well, we'll eventually send him a contract and be like, all right, this is it. Let's go.
Okay, that said,
Yeah, I don't know.
But you know, in boxing, if it were only if that was
it's
that
not gonna be
easy.
Obviously, the negotiations can be very long. There's gonna be a lot of back and forth. Obviously, he's gonna try and save face online to be like, "Oh, I'll fight you for free. I'll accept any of your demands." But at the end of the day, when it comes to it, like, he's got a manager, I've got a manager, and there's people behind both of us going, "Okay, this is a huge fight. Let's be smart with this."
Bro, like, you're an embarrassment. Like, like, look at, like, are you even a man if you talk all that shit, say you hate me more than you hate my brother, say you're gonna destroy me, say Gib is the best person in the world? Like, you are an embarrassment. That's the first thing I go, like, there's literally a video of him being like, "You heard it here first. Gib's gonna take out Jake in the 5th round. You heard it here first." Like you need to redeem yourself, KSI.
Bro, I had an inkling that it wasn't gonna happen. Rockman was ready, and Jake just wasn't keen on fighting. Simple as that. Rockman was, well, I guess we're gonna be a little bit overweight, but besides that, he was ready to fight. And even with Swarms, if he's overweight, I'm still ready to fight him. It is what it is. Like,
I don't think KSI will ever fight me, and I'm definitely on a different planet in terms of skill when it comes to all of these guys. I came from YouTube boxing, but now I'm a professional boxer and a world champion contender, whether or not people want to believe that. And so it's two different planets, and I said to my friend the other night, I want to fight all the influencers in the same night because I would knock them all out each in one round, and it would just be like a fun thing to do. But we're worlds apart, and if any of them want to fight me and give me free money, no fucking problem.
I think when it comes to me fighting Jake Paul, we're gonna have a strategy. Me, Alexis, and Maris are gonna go in. We're going to have a strategy. We're going to have everything planned. We're going to have everything we need to do in order to destroy Jake Paul. And yeah, it's going to be great. And it's going to be easy. And it's going to be a very good time for all of us.
Didn't know anything about the influencers. Knows Austin McBroom.
It's quite a distinctive name, isn't it?
I used to watch them back in the day.
Was it YouTube, yeah?
Yeah.
TikTok, YouTube, okay. Obviously, back in the day, it couldn't have been TikTok, really.
No, it was YouTube, and then they had started
what did he do? Was it like fitness or something?
So I think he was a basketball player, and then him and his wife started having children, and then I got a bit bored of the content because I was like,
what, you was watching
18.
him have children?
No.
Or what?
They probably did a couple of birth vlogs.
Yeah.
It was like when blogging was really big, and it's just like they lived a very extravagant life. And
they want to
like,
get that other basketball player to get involved.
Who?
Hey, did you see that? That Draymond Green, was it?
I know Nate Robinson got knocked out, didn't he? By
Oh, maybe that was it.
Jake Paul.
Oh, no, in the fight. No, Draymond Green had an argument with one of his teammates on the sidelines of a basketball game,
Like,
NBA
maybe
game.
have a boxing
And he
match.
like completely iced him with a right hand. Beautiful
Did he?
right hand, yeah.
Oh, right.
Like the guy pushed him.
That's
The
what
guy
they
kind of
should
pushed
sign
him
up.
away because he didn't want to argue, and he must have thought that was
Was
it.
he player?
Yeah, and he was like leaning back
He's
against the
player.
wall, and he just ran up and right hand. And it was,
Fucking hell.
yeah, chilled him.
But
yeah,
actually
Put that on my watch list for
So if Kalasawan watching, it might cost a lot though, getting paid by the NBA currently. But yeah, great stuff. Now, Georgia, you've got some data, if you like, from our audience. You asked them what they thought of YouTube boxing. You got some comments and some results.
I had a lot. I forgot how much when I ask questions on my Instagram, how many replies I get. So I should do that instead of Twitter next time.
You get.
Because Twitter, nobody ever responds to me.
Oh, right.
So if you hear that, everyone, hit up Georgia on her Instagram.
Asking for followers now, and she
Yeah.
Okay, so I said, what do you really think of YouTube boxing? And then somebody was like, do you mean influencer boxing? I was like, it's a much better thing.
Oh, right.
So Hope Ellen has said, I think it takes the piss out of the sport and the fighters who dedicate their lives to it. Yes, it may shine a light on the sport for new generations and audiences, but it makes it look easy, like anybody can do it.
Wow. Hope Ellen's gone in 2-footed there. She works from behind the gloves, by the way, so she should point it out if anyone's upset.
Leave her alone. Robert Blundell has said it should be done white collar style if it's done. Big gloves and head guards, they are novices.
Fair point.
Jamie Murphy said, a load of shit. A cancer on the sport of boxing.
Wow.
Christopher B. Rose has said, I don't mind it for what it is. There's journeymen getting knocked over weekly and people don't complain.
Yeah,
That's kind of what you said,
Denzel Bentley has said, get your money. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation
He said the
mark.
same about Eubank Junior Ben, didn't he? I think that's just a general, what do you call it, for life, slogan for life.
Maybe. Kyle Scriven has said, somebody's going to end up dead and the broadcasters / promoters will be responsible.
Wow. Took it there.
Emmett Brennan, who was from the Olympic Island team, has said, it's shite and not entertaining. Jose Stewart has said, respect it to an extent. I emoji. Like,
You've got a star-studded lineup of commenters.
Linus
here. I'm quite
Utopia
impressed.
said it puts more eyes on the sport, however, it devalues the levels in the sport. Coach G has said crap.
Crap?
Just crap.
Oh,
Yeah.
crap. What does crap mean?
Coach G, that's Shannon Ryan's coach.
Yes, yeah. And Dean from DI Family Butchers Limited in Luton has said...
George is getting sponsored. You get that sponsor. Get your money.
Thank you. Stick to YouTube and leave the boxing to the boxers. And 40% had said they loved it, 60% had said they hate it.
I'm sure there were 4 options on the poll. They just blanked the other 2 options.
Oh, that was on Instagram. You can only have 2. Yeah. But nobody on Twitter said they loved it. It was all hate.
You've set a high bar for like notable names
Well,
responding.
The thing is,
haven't you? You've got to keep that going.
With your people that you have on social media, because you just said you don't watch the whole influencer thing, it's going to be quite biased towards not enjoying it, isn't it? Because like none of those, like they're all, from a lot of those people, they were proper boxing people. They're not going to say, "Oh, I'm all for it," unless they're training one of them, I guess. But
That is true.
Yeah, why didn't Mark Tibbs respond? Is he not on your Insta? You would have thought he'd be the first one there.
Tibbsy doesn't follow me.
John David Jackson, you know. We've also got some questions for Mr. Shane Watson from
Yes,
social media.
let's do it.
Just bear with me while I
hopefully
find
nothing
them.
too rude.
Let's have a look.
I've had some hell on social media this last few weeks. But,
Oh,
Never.
I hadn't noticed.
Screenshots.
here we go.
Right, I've got to find them. I did screenshot them all, but now I'm struggling. Just bear with. We can cut
Do you
them
think it's
now.
quite naive for people to go into a fight 2 weeks of prep, having never fought before? 2 weeks.
Oh my god, yeah, but that's people who don't understand the dangers of actually fighting, and that's where it is a little bit dangerous. The whole Swarm situation. Listen, he probably couldn't turn down the paycheck he got offered. It's not that. It's a spotlight. Like he might be able to do many other things now with his life because of that opportunity. But yeah, it is. You've got to be careful on things like that, man, because boxing is something you should never even, like, they advise you don't even have an amateur fight unless you've been boxing for about 6 months, and even then that can be too soon. Like, or even some people say you don't spar for the first 6 months and stuff like this. It's obviously takes things with boxing. That's the one sport where there's so many different levels to it. Like even from like going to the gym for 1 week to never have gone to the gym before.
Yeah.
Like, you learn so much in that 1 week compared to somebody who's never done it before. So it's so dangerous. But again, it's like, you say that, but then you get fighters that haven't trained for months and then they've just been chucked in at last minute into a fight, and I think that's a lot more dangerous when you're fighting guys that actually know how to whack.
If we had a media sparring session,
Media?
yeah,
Oh, right.
who would you want to go in with?
Do you know what? That's a tough question.
It's a great question.
Thank
But it
you.
is a great question. It is a great question. So someone that works in boxing, yeah? Well, anyone?
Anyone?
I would quite like, because he supports Celtic and I support Glasgow Rangers, yeah? Jamie Ward, he works in Matchroom.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't mind him because he's a Celtic fan. That'd be quite interesting. I wouldn't mind... I'm trying to think who else would be fun. Joseph Parker's brother? No. I think he's 2-0 as a pro, actually. I don't know, really.
Maybe not.
Maybe I'll swerve that one. I might get ill that week. But Jamie Ward, I think, is the one I would like. But
I've got another option for you.
Who?
As I segue seamlessly into the questions I got from social media. This is one from Harry Phillips.
All right, he works for us. That's
He
good.
says, if him and I were to have a fight, how many rounds would it take for me to knock him out?
For him to knock me out. He's a big man. He's a lot bigger than me. But I've got something in here that he hasn't
Yeah.
got, right? From Scotland.
Plumber thing?
From Scotland. He's a bit... I'll say
Sorry,
yes, my
I just
family.
got that.
Thank you.
But, But I reckon I could get him out there in 3 rounds. I think I'd get to him. I think he'd get the better of me for the first 2. And I feel like I would eventually walk through him. I reckon I'll walk through him. I think when he gets hit on the button, which might take me a couple of rounds, because he's a lot bigger than me, you won't want to be in there anymore. Sorry, Aaron.
He also asked, if you could sign one current fighter to S-Jam, who would it be?
Oh, anyone in the world. It's just
Guess so.
quick battle. I don't want to say Canelo or something, 'cause that's just a bit boring, isn't it? No, but I'll go with someone UK based, makes it a bit more interesting. Do you know what? I really, really like Dalton Smith. I like his fat, and it's not even just because of how good of a boxer he is. Obviously, he's a very good boxer. But I really, really like his dad. I really get on with him. Obviously, we've got Junaid up there and Florian Marku. I really, really like him. But listen, his management company are doing a great job, so I'm not trying to piss anyone off. But no, I really like him. Good lad. Like, I think he's about to buy his first house and like his mind's in the right place. Incredible boxer. Good looking boy. Achieved a lot already. So yeah, he kind of ticks a lot of the boxes really.
And they are all the notable names that train in Steel City, I believe. Moving on. Seb Parkinson says, how did you go from YouTuber journalist to boxing manager? I think he means because obviously you were with Boxing Social for a bit.
So basically, just an opportunity. Shout out to Sam Jones and Adam Morley. I think they needed a bit of help and they liked the way that I was, probably because I was quite young. So they could like kind of develop me into the kind of person they wanted to. That was always quite well organised. And they've clearly saw that I had a lot of knowledge for the sport, and they trusted me as well. I think that's a big part of it. And then decided to give me an opportunity some years ago, and kind of went on from there really. And it's much better for me because I wasn't very good at the whole media game anyway, if I'm being completely honest. And I wasn't really enjoying it anymore. It was getting a bit repetitive for me. And I felt like I'd be a lot better at what I'm doing now. So it's all kind of worked out for me really.
Now this one is from Ton Yapples. But it's quite a serious question, which belies the name. He says, how did you feel with the whole Scott Westgarth situation, as you would have been one of the last people to speak to him? Because you did the post-fight interview with him and...
Yeah. Actually, no, I've never spoken about that before, actually. It's quite a weird one, because that whole experience was mental, man. Like, I was only... the whole way how it all came about was crazy. I was like 19 years old. I knew the guy that owned Boxing Social at the time, called Neil Kettleborough, and he was actually a really cool guy. And he gave me a big opportunity for me at the age, that with hardly any experience, which I had absolutely no training for, to go and be the live...
Training, mate. Some of us are just naturals.
It's all up here, isn't it? It's all up here. But to go and be the presenter, not even just like being interviewers, be the actual presenter of a show in Doncaster Dome. And the headline was actually Curtis Woodhouse against John Wayne Hibbert. And then the chief support was... Dexter Bellman and
Scott Westgarth.
Scott Westgarth, an English title eliminator, I think it was. I don't think it was for the English title eliminator. And actually, it was a very good fight from the start, and I couldn't believe Scott Westgarth won because everyone was saying how this Dexter Bellman was like a massive puncher and like very good ability, good amateur. To be honest, I wouldn't have heard a lot about them until I did a bit of research before I did presenting. And then I just remember, I think Scott Westgarth dropped him early. And then Scott Westgarth got dropped right at the end, and it was like a close fight, and Scott Westgarth got the nod. And you know what? I got so much stick for that, man, because in the interview, you see the Sun newspaper there, they took a screenshot of the 1 second he put his hand on his head and made out like that was something that I should have picked up. I was like
a sign, yeah.
When you get out of the ring, straight after the fight, you get seen by a doctor who will know a lot more about head injuries than I ever would. And I got so much stuff on social media, and I was really young, man. It was quite a difficult few weeks and months for me after that. I didn't really want to be in boxing anymore because I had like random women adding me on Facebook, like 60-year-old woman, like going mental at me, writing like whole page why I should never be anywhere near a boxing ring and stuff like that. I was like, what are you doing? Like, go back to like looking after your kids or something, man. Like, why are you getting rude to me? Like, what am I supposed to do? And like, yeah, it's very sad. I did a fundraiser actually for Scott Westgarth's family because I knew that the mother of his kid had to obviously have a lot of time off work and stuff and whatnot. I know that they had a mortgage and all that. It's such a sad story because he actually won the fight, so he would have gone on to a big payday and big opportunities and he's such a nice guy because I was speaking to him not long before the show and he seemed like so bang on. His dad is such a nice guy. It's a real shame and it just highlights how dangerous boxing is. But yeah, it was quite a hard thing to go through at the time because obviously getting all that, like I'd never been used to any of that stuff. Like it was in the Sun newspaper all the time. It was on ITV News. It was on the Daily Mail for ages. Like, it made the news for such a long time. And like I wasn't used to all of that stuff, and especially the criticism that came with it. But thoughts of his family, man, because that's just outrageous. Especially when you've paid to go and watch that. Like you've actually watched that happen. It's not even like you just heard about it on a phone call. Like, you've literally watched it. I remember, like going back into the change room, and they just like slammed the door shut. And then the ambulance has come, and then I found out the next morning when I woke up in the hotel, the sad news, and I was like, I just can't believe it. Like, you just never think something that's ever going to happen, even though it's happened in the past to others. But you just never think it's going to happen while you're there. And yeah, it was a really sad time. A sad time for the sport as well. But the only positive that comes from it, I think the board have done more to help and save fighters moving forward. I think you've got to have more paramedics at a show now and stuff like that. So, and there's more, like, you've seen in shows afterwards, like when fighters get put straight into stretchers, get the air and whatnot. So that's the one positive you can take from it. But no, it's awful.
And to end on a thankfully lighter note, Dan Barnard, who works for Matchroom.
What a bloke.
He asked, I'm surprised you didn't pick him for the person in boxing you'd like to fight, because it'd be like the two Spider-Men, but he says, are we related?
No, we're not.
Tell him.
But I know he wants to be, but no.
No.
Mark Tibbs used to always mistake me for him all the time. He used to always be like, your name's Dan. This is before when I was doing media. He's like, you're Dan Barnard, aren't you? Dan Barnard. And I told him about 30 times I'm not Dan Barnard. Clearly way better looking than him. And also, he supports West Ham, and he's more pale than me as well. And he can grow a beard, and I can't. So, no, I'm not Dan Barnard. I'm not his brother. But I don't know, actually. You never know, do you? I mean, you never really know. But no, I don't
Got some questions to ask when you get back to your parents. Great stuff. Well, you've heard the questions from social media, and you've heard some of our questions as well. But in just a moment, Shane will be going to the place that scares every guest on this podcast, the hot seat.
This game is called The Worst People in the World.
The worst people
Worst people in the world. Are you ready?
Oh, is that got anything to do with me sitting here, or?
So, people who drop their gum shields and put them straight back in their mouths without rinsing it, or people that don't wash their wraps?
I'd say the gum shield's probably worse. That's like proper touching the gums and that. That's a bit. I'd say, yeah, I'll definitely say the gum shield's the worst part, because I just feel like when it comes to your teeth and mouth, it's a bit more sensitive than the wraps, I would have thought.
People who cheat workouts and don't give it 100%, or people who spar to injure?
People who spar to injure, definitely.
Sorry, couldn't get my words out then. People who don't put their weights back in the gym, or people who are on the phone the entire gym session?
People on the phone entire gym session, and technically if they didn't put the weights down, you lifting them up again is kind of giving you a bit more of a gain as well. But people who just go on the phone all the time, wasting their membership, probably getting in the way as well, and probably flex in the mirror and acting like they've had a hard session afterwards, definitely.
People who miss the spit bucket in the gym and just spit on the floor, or people who kiss their dog on the mouth?
Definitely spit on the floor.
Over kissing a dog on the mouth?
Yeah, I mean, I can make a reason with that though. You can really love your dog and you just want to have a bit of affection, right?
You know they lick their like arse and stuff, right?
Yeah, I get that. But you can then use mouthwash yourself and brush your teeth. But spitting on the floor, we're in COVID time still, yeah? Like that is proper dirty. But yeah, no, spitting at all is like my worst thing. I hate it. So that's probably what it is.
People who eat with their mouths open, or people who cough and sneeze all over you on public transport?
Cough and sneeze has got to be worse. I mean, they are both pretty bad, but cough and sneeze, that is like proper, that's almost close to spitting. That's like dirty, isn't it? Like there's potential illnesses involved there as well. At least when it's coming to the food.
Are you a bit of a germaphobe? Are you a bit of a germaphobe?
Not really. It's just more like a random guy, like, you know, when they got like their newspaper open and treatment, like coughing all over you, like, forget that. That's just dirty, innit? Like on the central line as well, to make it even worse. But nah, that's definitely cough and sneezing the worst. At least with the other thing, you can put like earphones in and not have to listen to it or something.
Mm-hmm. People who don't use deodorant and hold their arms up next to you on the tube, or people who phlegm in the sink?
It has to be the no deodorant thing. That's just awful, isn't it? Like that's just spitting on the sink is obviously not ideal again, but it can be washed away and it can be dealt with. But that you actually have to sit there and smell it. And what happens if you're on like a Piccadilly line from Hatton Cross all the way to King's Cross, or like Finsbury Park, a good hour on there, and you've got that next to you the whole time on a packed tube? It's a nightmare. It's dreadful. Nah, it has to be that one.
If you could change one thing about boxing, what would it be?
There's a lot to change, but I would pick a bit more of like a UFC structure where the best fight the best without the politics. That would be one of the things I would pick. Yeah, and do you know what? Just consistency as well.
Perfect, cool.
That's it.
Well done.
There we are.
You passed.
Wow, that was like a furnace. Oh my God. Really, really appreciate having you here, Shane. It's been great to listen to your experiences. Please, guys, like, comment, subscribe. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. But yeah, thanks to Shane and thanks to Georgia, of course, as ever.
Thanks for having me on.
Yo, Danny Flexen here. Think you know shit about boxing? There's only one way to find out. Listen to the full podcast via one of the links in the description or go to secondsoutboxing.podbean.com.
You know shit about boxing.